So the way that Stephen Hassan, who wrote the book, the reading that you're doing, the way he sort of tries to make sense of how do you brainwash someone, like he doesn't call it brainwashing, but how do you have such complete mind control over someone that they would sell all their belongings, leave home, live in a house, drop out of college, all of these things so dramatically. And what he came to discover is there's a series of techniques that cults use, whether they're religious cults, political cults, no matter what their foundation is, or financial cults, they have a certain set of techniques they all seem to use. And he calls it the bite model. So they they control your behavior, they control your access to information. Most importantly, they try to change your thinking process, they break you down, empty you out so they can fill you up with their own ideas. And of course, there's emotional manipulation. So let's go through each one. If this will let me. Okay, B is for behavior. So the first thing a lot of cults like to do is regulate your physical reality. So if they can get you on a retreat, or they can get you to live in the house, some kind of way to control everything that you're doing. So often where you live, some cults have, like, they wear different clothes to identify themselves as separate. Maybe it's about eating specific foods. Yeah, they like to control money. A lot of cults seem to have this thing about rejecting material wealth, and you should just give it all to them. Or unless it's like a multi-level marketing scheme, then you should give them the money in order to make money. So I gave an example over here. Apparently there's this cult of universal medicine where people would believe that if they gave up all their money, they would have a better reincarnation. So yeah, so he said, if you leave your child $10,000 and the kids spend that money to keep them in recognition, identification, excess, that holds you in contraction in your next life. If you invest wisely in your will, this will give you fire in your next life. So they're actually preying on your reincarnation. So don't leave your kids your money. You should leave us your money, because if you leave your kids your money, they'll stay stuck in that, and that'll mess up your next lifetime. Apparently a lot of kids have sued this, or adult children have sued this cult because their parents left huge fortunes to them, and none to this cult and none to them. One way that cults work to affect you, and maybe this is how school works as well, but they keep you busy. Busy. So you're off-centered. You never have time to reflect. You're always doing something. They get you going here and there and go to this process and that process, so that you don't find that you're centered. Now this one is very personal to me, because this is one that my abuser used all the time: sleep deprivation. So sleep deprivation, I don't know if you've ever read this before, but 72 hours without sleep, you can be labeled like insane, right? So if you don't sleep, it'll lower your judgment, memory, coordination. By day 1 or 2, you start having hallucinations. I don't know if you've ever stayed up over 24 hours before, but it really, really impacts your ability to think about things and to function. And it gives you a bipolar mood. So they, if you're sleep deprived, you'll get adrenaline running to like try to keep all the systems running. And then there'll be a crash that's like a complete despair. And then the cult will come in and sort of help you with that despair. And remember the high. So what my abuser would do was he would want something from me that I was insistent that he no, and I would say no. And people say, why don't you say no? Why didn't you leave? And let's say it's 10 o'clock at night, and he said, I want to have that. And I say no. And then he stays up like, why can't I? What's wrong? Why have you changed? Who's in your life? Who's been talking to you? Why is this happening? Don't you care about me? Do you know what my life has been like? And on and on and on and on and on. And I have an 8 o'clock class, and I was in college. And by 6 a.m. I'd be like, I need those 2 hours or I'm going to die. So fine, you can have it. And this would go on. And it was just, you didn't think each one was a mind control, but it was just like, it's just easier to go along with it until, bam, you're caught up in it. They also, cults will control your interpersonal life. So at first, when you join a cult, you're never alone. You're always in a group. You always have like a handler or someone around you. Again, so you can't think straight. One cult person who worked in a cult admitted that they broke people into the idea of sheeps and goats. So sheep are the one that, yeah, they're going to follow this. We've got them. And goats are the one going, wait a minute, what does this mean? And questioning stuff. So often what they do is they'd split off the goats from the sheep, and either try to neutralize the goats, send them home, or convert them, but basically keep them away from raising questions to the sheep so that they could get them. And they even, these are their terms. So this isn't like, are they accidentally like mind controlling people? No, this is intentional. And then of course, being physically separated from outsiders. A lot of places have a lot of cult places. I don't know why I'm using big terms. So like Scientology and other cults have this belief of disconnecting from non-believers. So you don't want to be around toxic people in your life. I was told in Amway that I didn't want to be around people who didn't see my vision. So if people didn't want to buy into my business, and if people had negative things to say about what I was doing, it's because they were trying to bring me down, and positive thinking is the way it goes. And so I really need to cut off the friendships and relationships with people who want to stay stuck in their own poverty. So these are ways that they get you to sort of not talk to your friends, not talk to your family, not be connected to sort of outside people. And of course, an abusive relationship, that's key as well. So the I then stands for information. And here's one of the deception parts. So a lot of cults withhold information or lie about information until you are ready. And that's the story they tell you, right? It's like, look, you had such an addictive personality. You know, you weren't ready for the whole truth. We wanted to get you kind of well before we told you the whole situation. So Amway is told it's just a business opportunity. They don't tell you the whole program. They just say, stop by. But by the time you find out all the different levels, so like the Church of Scientology, as soon as you find out at a higher level that some of it's sort of crazy, you've already spent so much money and time that you try to convince yourself, no, this can't be real. You know, maybe it's not as bad as that. Oh yeah, I had a note that, I mean, they're not a cult, but this happened. I went to a residential treatment center, not for alcoholism or drugs, but for PTSD. And I asked them, how long is the stay? And they said, well, it varies from person to person. Some people go for 2 weeks, and some people, you know, stay 6 months. But they never told me was, but if you leave before 30 days, they'll declare you against medical advice and your insurance won't pay for it. So they didn't give me all the facts up front, which I very much gave them strong feedback about, like, no, it doesn't matter. I went on my own voluntary action. You don't need to lie to me to get me in there. The other thing that they do to control the information about the cult or other people knowing is going after critics and ex-members. So for those of you, if you choose to watch the Leah Remini, is that her name? Story. She's an actress who was in Scientology, and when she left Scientology and was speaking out against it, they went after her hardcore. So they either sue someone, harass them, follow them, lie about them. They said that she was sick and bitter, and that's why she left. She was committing crimes, and they had to kick her out. And the idea is that the ends justifies the means. Again, so when my treatment center lied to me, it's like, yeah, but you got here, right? And that's what counts. And in Scientology, they believed anyone who left was fair game. So anything you have to do to them after that is fair game, because they could, you know, affect the people inside the cult. This one's important, so it has a lot of elements to it, but of course your thoughts. The way that cult mind control works is, you know, you have a set of beliefs and ideas when you get there about what's right or wrong or how the world works or what you want to believe, but they need you not to have that. They need you to pick up their beliefs. So there's a whole set of series to empty you out and fill you up with a new set of beliefs and maintain those beliefs. One of the biggest ways they do that is absolutist black and white thinking, so that there's no gray, there's no agree to disagree. You have to be all in or you're out. Magical thinking. Now, I, of course, have magical thinking. I want to have magical thinking. I don't want to give this up. But almost, you know, when you're at that too good to be true, if you put in 2 minutes a day, this product will help you lose all the weight and you don't have to change your eating or exercise. I've yet to find that. Or 2 hours a week and you'll be a millionaire, or you can heal all of your physical ailments, or even to the level of you'll have special powers, you'll be enlightened, you'll be able to go to another plane. I have slides for each of these. Special language and terms, right? You want to have an insider lingo. And if anything you don't understand or you question, anything you question, you say, that's weird. They say, no, you don't quite understand it. You just don't understand it yet. And finally, thought stopping techniques. When somebody tries to give you out information that contradicts, you just sort of have a series of techniques to stop it from getting in. So let's look at all or nothing. Absolutist all or nothing thinking. So basically the belief is all encompassing. It's a coordinated theory of all. It covers any aspect. So you can say, well, I don't know that this is going to cover this part of my life. Absolutely it has to. You have to be all in. You can't choose piecemeal. You have to accept it all or reject it all. And all other systems of thought are considered flawed. So you need to escape the evils of capitalism, the unenlightened, the people who don't want to resonate at a higher level. So there's a lot of people who want enlightenment, and there's a lot of spiritual practices to get there. And the difference between that and a cult is there's only one way to get there, and it's all or nothing, and you have to take the whole program or none. And yeah. I can give you more personal examples if you want, but I think that one's okay. Magical thinking, we just talked about that, is promises of amazing, miraculous outcomes. You could be a millionaire, superpowers, you can manifest anything, right? If you've read The Secret, you can manifest anything. And if it doesn't work, it's because you didn't believe it would work. There's something wrong with you. That's why it didn't work. The system works though. You can have perfect health. You can have massive weight loss, a spectacular afterlife. The thing is, it builds on half truths, right? So meditation does create this. Positive thinking absolutely does put us in a better place to, achieve our goals. So they take concepts and practices that do actually work. So any kind of like a catharsis in a group can be very healing, right? Positive thinking does set us down the path. So those things aren't the problem. It's the therefore you're going to now have everything. So an example of this, my mom also has chronic illness. It's genetic. That's why I got her stupid stuff. But in her church, they're very positive thinking. And every time she gets sick, they say, Gail, you can choose not to be sick. Like, you just believe yourself not being sick. And, every time you get sick, we just have to, I don't know why you're choosing that for yourself. And my mom would be, oh, I know. I'm trying hard to have a positive thought, but I do keep getting sick. So I must not be, applying the principles perfectly. Yeah, that's what happens. Special language and terms, right? You want to have a inner circle. But one of the things they do is they simplify very complicated ideas into cliche terms. In groups and out groups, No, it was in the reading about the Moonies where he said anytime you had a complex issue or kind of complex conflict between members, they say, oh, this is a simple Cain and Abel problem. And you may not even know what that means, right? But you're like, oh, okay. Let me think about that. So any kind of problem can be fixed into these simple ideas. If you have confusion, again, it's because you didn't get it, right? If you're like, I don't know how that's supposed to fix it, it's because you need to learn it better. My few weeks in Scientology, they have a belief that learning disabilities come from not understanding a word. So after reading Dianetics and saying, none of this makes any sense, like I have no idea what I was reading, they're like, we must just not have understood a word. I'm like, well, the words you made up, yeah, I don't understand. So they make me sit down and define the words using other words that don't make any sense. They're like, well, now define those words. So next thing, you're like defining words by other made-up words, by other made-up words, to the point where you're like, oh, I'll just tell them I got it so I can move on. And then you just kind of convince yourself. And that's the biggest thing. If you don't get it, it's your fault. Self-blame. If it's not working, it's something about you. Um, again, I love positive thinking, but there's that whole attitudes of choice, happiness of choice. All of these things are a choice, and they are. But the idea is, if you're at all unhappy in your life, then it's your fault. That's different than I can choose to do something else, right? I got a raw deal in life where I did suffer from trauma. I have PTSD. I have medical issues. I have done a lot of things in my life for it to be better. So in those ways, it's totally a choice. But I still don't choose to be in pain, or 1 second I go off my eating plan and everything hurts again. So that, but if it's a closed system and something's not working for you, you're not successful, you're not making money, it's because you're not doing it right. You didn't understand it. You weren't pure enough. You didn't believe enough. You didn't try hard enough. There's something really bad inside of you, maybe, that they have to cure. My husband and I were having trouble conceiving, and the guru, his mom's guru, said that it was my fault, because actually it was my husband's not fault, but he had sperm that wasn't very effective. But they said it was my fault because I didn't follow the tenets of the religion. And they're like, would you follow them? And it was like, ugh, it was a menstruation taboo, and it really annoyed the fuck out of me. And finally I was like, fine, I'll do it. They're like, no, but you have to really believe deep down inside, or it won't work, right? Well, that's a great plan. So if I never get pregnant, it's because I didn't believe hard enough. I didn't try hard enough. If I would have believed more, it would have worked. And finally, if someone comes at you from the outside and gives you information that contradicts what the cult has taught you, you can use thought-stopping techniques. This can be very helpful when used healthily. So if you have a recurring rumination or recurring anxiety or fear, or, like if I get flashbacks of PT, from trauma in the past, this can be very helpful to be like, no, you can shut it down and you can change ideas. But it's super dangerous when it's used to shut down critical thinking. So some cults use chanting, humming, singing, meditating, praying to shut out all the negativity. So if someone starts talking to you, you can just do it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I met my roommate's family in Vegas over spring break, and his lesbian aunt's wife lives in Mississippi, and she's from Ukraine. And so already, like, that's got to be a really tough life. And she immediately started the conversation to me alone with, isn't Trump the best president we've ever had? And because I didn't want to have a scene at the dinner table, I did take off. I had one of those Mondelez bracelets and just started like, it's okay, everything's good, life is swell, I got this, So those are all positive things when you need to shut something out for social, for, relationships and everything else. But if we do it all the time, then it becomes very dangerous. And we do all that to deny, rationalize, justify what we're doing and not hear about the outcomes. You see this online if somebody says, well, but this guy shot up everyone. What? Somebody else shot up people too. Like, well, let's stop at this one moment and think about what's happening.